Hello and welcome to the SWS Classroom Chat. Joining me now live from Jamshedpur is Ms. Daisy Singh, a senior English teacher who has also been a board examiner for ICSE for the past about 15 years. Thank you very much, Ms. Daisy Singh, for your time. Let's get English literature paper discussion out of the way, because many of the questions are what students have been posing. Many small doubts, so please bear with us for that. As far as English literature paper is concerned, now, obviously the keywords are what matter. The length of the answer doesn't matter, right? What would you tell to those students?
Are you talking about language or literature?
Literature first.
Literature, yes. They need to, in class 10, they have to have those keywords. But the board also accepts synonyms to those keywords.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's nice if they know the keywords. The length of the answer does not matter.
So the question that
they have to actually write to the point. Where does the scene take place? It takes place in a street in Venice. That's all.
Yes.
They don't need to describe the speaker and all that.
Okay. So basically getting the answer to this specific question, right? But then the following question that most students ask is, how do we know which is a keyword? Is there some rocket science to it?
No, there is no. For example, how has Antonio's sadness affected him? Okay. Now, if this is the first, okay, for my class 10s, this does not matter. So
yes.
Anyway, I'm giving you an example.
Yeah.
Although it's not in the portion.
Yeah.
How does the sadness affect him?
Any example from the trial scene, which is more likely to come?
Yeah. Okay, from the trial scene then. What does Portia say about mercy? Okay, the qualities of mercy.
Yes.
What does Portia say about the qualities of mercy? There are 3 marks there.
Yes.
So they just need to write mercy is not forced.
Yeah.
It falls like gentle rain from heaven, and it's twice blessed.
Yes.
The one who gets mercy receives mercy, and the one who gives mercy. There are 3 points there. Okay, twice blessed.
Yes.
It falls like gentle rain from heaven.
Yeah.
And it's not forced.
Yes.
So 3 marks, 3 points. They don't have to write the entire mercy speech there.
Okay.
Actually, children are afraid. They feel, and let me write everything.
Yes.
Let the teacher decide which 3 answers are correct and give me the 3 marks.
Right. Actually. I mean, as when you are there playing the role of a board examiner, if someone has written an entire tome, do you patiently go through it, or if you find the 3 keywords, that's good enough for you?
As soon as we find the 3 keywords, that is going to give them the 3 marks.
Okay.
That's it. We just put a tick on those 3 words, and then we give them that 3 marks.
Okay. MCQs, which of course the students attempted in semester 1 examination. Again, the approach should be the same. Familiarity with the text is absolutely important in order to get those 10 MCQs right.
Imperative. They must be familiar with the text.
Right. Finally, doing percentage study. This is what many students ask, whether doing one poem, one of the 2 poems is good enough, whether doing one story of the 2 is good enough, whether doing one of the 2 scenes is good enough. Would you advise anyone to do this kind of a percentage study, or would you strongly dissuade the students from doing so?
I'll dissuade. We are old school. We need to do everything.
I tell them that your seniors did 20 chapters of treasure troves. You are going to do only 4. So, I mean, in that sense, you are much blessed.
They ought to do it, because at the end of the day, they are supposed to answer the first MCQ, the 8 MCQs, no? So they have to be thorough with the text.
Yes.
You can't afford to lose even 4 marks from there. So.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's move to English language, where we have lots of small questions. Let's start with the composition, the essays. While every essay, of course, needs a different approach, and we are not going to get into the intricacies of what each essay should be like. What is the basic mistake that you find most students make when they're writing an essay, be it narrative or argumentative or a picture composition?
One glaring error we find is that after they have read the composition, maybe the composition says a trip to a place. You took a trip to this place. What did you do there? What did you learn from that trip? Mention one incident that you still remember. Now, there are 3 questions there.
Yes.
But most of them for the first 200 words, they go on to write about the journey to that place. Okay. Or they give you a huge, a lengthy introduction. You know, how trips are, how you enjoy doing, going on trips. So all that should be avoided. And this is, in my school, we usually find this, that some children who get less marks is because of this.
So you have to,
getting into it straight it's a directed composition. Yeah, it's a direct, ICSE gives you a directed composition. You can sense the 3 paragraphs that you want to make. So therefore, you should, you know, actually ICSE helps you, giving you 3 to 4 questions there. What did you do? Correct. How did you feel? Correct. So they should just answer those questions. It's like directed. They should.
Okay, I mean, that way it kind of simplifies it in the mind also. You're basically breaking it into 3-4 parts and just attacking each one of them. In terms of vocabulary, it does not have to be bombastic or flowery language at all. Simple, straight, smart.
Because they are, they are very small. They're just 15, 16-year-old. And somehow they are taught that they should write very extraordinary language, but they should not. They should just write simple, correct English.
Right.
That's all.
And obviously they get penalized for spelling mistakes and grammatical errors.
Yes. And even if a word is wrongly used, you know what they do? It is very bizarre that they pick out these words from books and they want to insert it in their sentences.
Yes.
Which again, the sentence becomes an error, and then they lose marks.
Another thing which is taught in many schools is that you should somehow or the other use a quotation somewhere in order to impress the examiner. Do you as an examiner get impressed by these quotes which are used?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Because your composition is your own composition. Yes. It's what you compose. Yes. So you need not take, you know, big quotations from other people's lives and put it there. I don't. Yes. Maybe one little proverb does well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you should not.
Right.
Usually, some schools, what they do is they teach them the first paragraph and the last paragraph. And you will find 50 papers from your bundle having the same beginning. Okay. So that they should be discussed.
Okay. Now, let's move on to letter writing. Ideally, how long should I say a formal or even an informal letter ideally be? I mean, of course, we have seen the ICSE specimen letter, and that's what we try to follow. But is there some kind of a rule of how long a letter should be?
I'll tell you what I do at my school. We don't ask them to write very lengthy letters. We just tell them that whatever question the letter demands, you should answer those questions. Okay, like for example, for this pre-ICSE we had, if what was that? I forget. We had a question where there were 2 parts there. Okay, and if they answer those 2 parts, 2 points for each part, 2 points. Right. The next part, 2 points. Okay. How did you, your friend? Okay, I got it. I remember now. Your friend has been studying and gets good grades, but you have to encourage him to take part in extracurricular activities and give him reasons for that.
Okay.
So why should he take part in extracurricular activities, and how it will help him? So they have to know. If they can do that within 3 to 4 lines, that's fair enough, because they've got all the points there.
Right.
The lengthier your work is, you tend to lose marks if your grammar, if there are grammatical errors there. So that they have to.
Yeah. So probably, I mean, a safer approach would be to keep it as short as possible, as crisp as possible. So even in an informal letter, because that's where students tend to get carried away and write more than, because, you know, they're writing to a friend or to a relative kind of thing. Again, in a formal letter, if it is, say, a letter to the municipal commissioner, so you are highlighting 2 problems and 2 suggestions that you would want to make.
That's all. Yes.
That's all, right? So the introduction, a short paragraph, basically pointing out what you're writing about, 2 problems, 2 suggestions in the 3rd paragraph, and a closing sentence, end of the letter, right?
Yeah.
Notice an email. Notice, no boxing of the notice.
No. Do you know that it's a 2-hour paper? Okay, now it's of course 1.5 hour paper.
Yeah.
They need to write a lot. They won't get time. There is no business that they need to put a little notice. No, they should not.
Okay. How do you deal with notices which are about, say, returning the books to the library before a particular date? Now, in that case, the date comes like what? Before, say, 30th of April 2022? Will that be fine? Is that the way it is to be put? I mean,
if you go outside the grid, usually the council gives us, all these competitions, quiz competition, and all these kind of school extracurricular and co-curricular activities they have been testing on. But we have also trained our children if there's something different. Like, for example, you are collecting money for charity, or you are going on a trip outside. So we have trained them. At that time, they have to understand that their date, time, and venue will be according to the question. Like, for example, this time we had given them, your school is planning an educational trip. Okay. Now, some children, they made a mistake. They said educational trip to Agra, to Delhi, and they just gave that one date there. 1st April, and where is the trip to Delhi? So that doesn't, it doesn't match.
Yeah. So in this
case, very smart.
Yeah, the format has to change. The format of the notice does change according to.
Or a little, if they have a little common sense, some of them, what they wrote was, it was an educational trip. Now, it's an open thing. So they wrote an educational trip to Tata Steel. So see, they were smart enough. They knew that, okay, date, time, and venue, and they wrote Tata Steel. They wrote the zoological park. And so they have.
So then it can be a day-long thing. It doesn't have to be spread over many days.
And some wrote to Ranchi, some wrote to Kolkata. The museum to Kolkata, and the time was 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So everything fall. It was like there were no factual errors, or there were no these kind of errors actually.
Correct. And do we give more details than what is written in the question? For instance, if you are going for a say trek. Would you add a line saying that students are advised to bring woolens along? I mean, would you recommend adding that kind of a line?
No issues. They can. But then they should not make the 2 or 3 sentences there for the target audience. That should not be very, very lengthy.
Yes.
Sometimes we see people writing 10 lines there. We discourage. We tell them to write just 2 sentences.
2 sentences.
For whom and how? That's all.
Right. The email, again, it has to be a 1+1 and a closing line, right? The first sentence, if you're inviting someone, you talk about the invitation. The second sentence or the paragraph gives more details about the date, venue, time, etc. And finally, a closing kind of a line. That's all. I mean, the email doesn't have to be anything more than that.
No, the email has to be very short. Maybe the first line is who I, the president of whatever, we are organizing, our school is organizing this, and why that mail has gone, we would like you to send a team of 3 members or whatever. And the next paragraph, they could give the details, time, place, those details, and end it. That's all.
And when you're sending it to multiple people, if you're sending it to say 3 principals of 3 different schools, you separate it with a comma.
We put they should put commas. They should not put CC because every principle is important.
Because each one of them. Yes, correct. That's true. And final question: the order of answering, does it matter to a board examiner if a student has started with notice email and doing the essay at the end? Nothing of the sort matters.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Fine. I think you have taken all the questions and I've finished with all the queries that have come my way from students. Thank you very much. I'm sure students will find this extremely useful. Thank you very much.